Welcome to the Voodoo Power Podcast.
Welcome to Plates and Pancakes. We're sitting down today with JT Ayers. Coach Ayers is a three-time Orange County Track Coach of the Year and has been coaching track and field for 17 years. Coach Ayers led his team at Orange Lutheran High School to its first CIF Division Championship in 2013. After that, he took over at his Alma Mater, Trabuco Hills High School, as head coach of the boys team in 2014. Since then, his athletes have broken 35 grade level and 12 school records, three-time All-Orange County records, and the team has been ranked number 1 in Orange County 4 different years. Coach Ayers received his BA in History from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and his teaching credential a Master's in Coaching and Athletic Administration from Concordia University in Irvine. He is currently the Executive Director of CoachAyers.com and has published work on Simplifaster and teaches full-time at Trabuco Hills High School. So welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, man. Voodoo Power. Good to meet you, Steve. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you. So there's tons of places we could start with this, and me and you had talked earlier in the week about some different ideas, and I was kind of building this, but the one thing I get from your bio, for instance, is consistency. You managed to maintain a high level of consistency. What goes into that?
Oh, wow, man. That's quite a compliment. Throwing a dart and you land on that one. Okay, so it's going to be culture. I mean, first and foremost, when I became a track coach, I became a head track coach when I was 25 years old. 25 years old. I was not ready. But I mean, like every 25-year-old, you think you could do everything, right? And anything. So I tried. And I realized real quickly that all my coaches that ever coached, that ever were my coaches, and I was trying to do what and replicate the things that they did. I found real quickly that they didn't really know what they're doing. Nice guys. And I had a great experience, but I thought, you know what? I'm not smart enough. I need to go out and I need to figure out how to do this. And so I think when I was 25, I just did everything I could to try to educate myself on the X's and the O's, this and that, about sprint and hurdles. But then I found myself and I found these kids succeeding, and they were succeeding in spite of me. And the reason they were succeeding in spite of me is because, and this might sound pretty bad, sometimes it's not so much about the X's and O's. It's not about the workout. It's not about the mesio and microcycles, and those things are very important. But sometimes you just look at a teenager in the eye and you tell them they can do something, and then sometimes, more often than not, actually they do it. And so I realized that culture and developing a program where kids are excited about coming to practice, their gear looks cool, it means something to have a sticker on the back of their car. When they talk about the high school, like Trabuco Hills High School, the first thing that you see when you Google Trabuco Hills High School is track and field. And that's because I flood, so SEO is all over the map and Google's grabbing stuff. And it is cool to do track at Trabuco Hills High School. And I mean, you and I know, or I definitely know, I love track and field. I love this sport. And I was a football player and I was a track runner and I did a bunch of other sports, lettered in a bunch of different sports, but it was track. It was the guys, it was the girls, it was the different body types, different personalities. It was all of these 16 events culminating and coming together and being together for about 4.5 hours at a dual meet with an arch rival, and it coming down to the 4x4 or the triple jump. And one time it was the pole vault for some weird reason. And everybody's elated and excited. And that's the best thing about the sport. And so we can talk more about how you develop that culture. But at 25 years old, that pressed on me as like, this is what it means. This is what it matters. And then those kids have these moments, these power of moments where there's elation and elevation and there's something to be had, and they do remarkable things and they remember it the rest of their lives. And they're telling, when I was 20, I'm 41 now. So when I was 25, those kids have kids now. So now they're telling their kids about this. And then now their kids are coming through the high school and they're talking about, oh, my dad was on the team and my dad ran with you or was a couple years behind you. And these memories mean something. And so consistency, that's just because you develop or create something that people want to be a part of, people are fans of, people want to develop these lifelong memories from all of that. So I would say anything that I do, anything, and that's to the emails I write, to the pictures that are taken, to the snack bar with the moms and the, at the track meets. I'm creating memories for people, and that's a worthy endeavor. And so we host really, really large track meets, and they're great big fundraisers for us, so we can afford a lot of really expensive things. But I'll tell you what, I have a lot of fun designing hats like I'm wearing right now, or the Nike sweatpants and sweatshirts. Like we go track meets, and I tell the kids, I go, what do you guys want? What do you see? They go, oh my gosh, look at Oregon or Arkansas. Look at that. I'm like, okay, go take a picture. Take a quick picture of their sweat uniform. And guess what? We're designing stuff just like them. We see Michael Norman wearing and Rob Benjamin wearing their like Nike uniform, fit, tight, cool uniforms. I go, we can do the same thing. Let's go. Let's fundraise. Let's go develop it. Let's do it. There's local companies. I hire them to do videos and make them super cool. And there's a video production group at school. They're not very good, but they're cool. And so they make things and they put them on the announcements. The list goes on and on and on. If you want to be consistent, then the freshmen are excited to be there, and they look at the seniors as like these mythical gods. Well, those freshmen 4 years ago were the same, and we just cycle through. I never wanted to be a coach that had a team that waited around for talent, because I don't coach at the high school with any talent. Those kids go to all the football schools and the Catholic private schools around me. I get the kid that just grew up in the neighborhood down the street, and I find them in PE, and I find them in band, and I find them just walking around campus, and I have tryouts, and the kids make the team, and it is a big, big deal. And they have the time of their lives, and they work really, really hard. And the freshmen and sophomores typically don't score points because they have to earn the spot, and eventually they get there. So you mentioned consistency, and I'm giving you the longest answer in podcast history. Consistency comes from developing a culture where people are excited to be a part of it.
In my area, track isn't what it used to be 10, 15 years ago. It's very easy for people to blame baseball or softball or this or that from taking all the track athletes. You're talking culture. I think culture has to be built to I guess basically take them athletes back. It has to be worth it. It has to be worth their time. How do you develop a program that makes kids want to run? I mean, this isn't the funnest thing in the world for every kid, but if you make a culture inviting to them, you might be able to bring them back. How could you do that?
It's a great question. I like when people say something along the lines of running. That's not fun. Or that's my punishment in baseball. False. That is not correct. Here, you know what? What little kid or even teenager is going to do with their buddy? They're going to chase each other. So that's running, and that's fun. And being fast is fun. Lifting heavy weight on a deadlift bar is fun. Wearing cool uniforms and arm sleeves, and that's fun. So baseball kids, they can do track. I'll share them. They come on down. They get the Feed the Cats Tony Holler stuff very, very much, because I can't work them that much. And it's not so, it's very light. But the idea is they come down, and I'll make them fast. The baseball team's fast because of track and field. The lacrosse team is fast because of track and field. The soccer team is fast because of track and field. I am the speed coach, and I'm very good at it, and people know that. And the reason why they know that is because the product that happens, but then people talk. People talk about the speed coach and this, and I write articles on Simplifaster, not because I need to gain another $130 to, per word or whatever it is to from Simplifaster. I do that because I want to throw it out there, and I want credibility among my people. The Trabuco Hills people, I put videos out there and I send them out for free because it's credibility. Credibility is a big deal. I'm the speed coach for the football team, and I'm out with them for 20 minutes on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. So I get them. I get 20 minutes of the offense, 20 minutes of the defense, 20 minutes of the freshmen. And the only reason I'm there is because credibility, and I'm in front of them, and opportunity. So it is cool to do track. And you know what? If I was a lacrosse coach, I'd be doing the same stuff. It'd be cool to do lacrosse. It'd be cool to be in basketball. Like, just the sport alone doesn't captivate people. It's the people that are doing it. It's the gear, it's the coaching, it's the prestige of it all. It's being part of something. And so nowadays, and by the way, like the school down the street has a terrible track and field program. Nobody goes out for that track and field program. And there's reasons for that. And it has nothing to do with wins and losses. It has everything to do with all the stuff I've been talking about. So if you want to run track and field, I will paint borders and parameters. If you can make the time to make the team, because I have tryouts, you're in. And then you have to show up, and there's the policies, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And you know what? If you can't do it, that's fine. That's fine. Go somewhere else, and you have my full support. I respect you for it. And if you're in baseball, if you're a football kid that does baseball, then I'll do the best I can to make you fast for baseball and football. And if you can't be on the track team, I'll still hang out for 20 minutes after track and field practice to do stuff with you, because I care about you, and I care about you being great, because that's what matters. So at the end of the day, I mean, I think it's a head coach's job to create an environment that's, I don't know, enticing, create an environment where people want to be a part of it. So track is cool. Track is really, really cool. And I think everything I do, everything points to that fact. And if kids didn't come out for the track and field team, if the soccer girls didn't come out to my track and field team, if the soccer boys, and I mean, they have club sports too. The volleyball have club sports. If I didn't make it possible or doable for those kids, then yeah, I lose them. But I got to hand it too that, I mean, the head football coach at Trabuco Hills High School, he's been there for about 5 years now. Great dude. And we get along great. And I think it's the track and field coach's job to get along with all the other coaches. Cause let's be honest, I'm the speed coach for every sport. And if that's the case, then how can they not like me? Like today I timed every single girl in the girls soccer program. I timed their 40s, and I rank them, and I give them to the coach. The girls were excited about it. And you know what? I found all the fast girls, and I found the kids that want to get faster, and it's almost all of them. And so they'll all come out for track. I'm going to do the same thing with the soccer boys on Friday. And eventually we'll do the football team when their season's over, because coach won't let me do it in season, which is fine. And, I'm just going to go out and make myself available. And honestly, at the end of the day, people respect me and people like me. And I like both those facts.
Yeah. And it's something you have to protect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Credibility goes a long way. I mean, people need to know what I'm about, and I'm about them. And if it was about me, it'd be very evident. And you mentioned all those accolades to start the podcast, and it sounds super cool, but I think off podcast, you and I made a joke, like, my school doesn't care if we win or lose. Like, I know that sounds counterintuitive and weird. I teach at a public high school. I'm a tenured teacher. Like, I'm not getting fired. And for losses, we don't lose because we all care. But I get paid the same. My stipend is very, very small, but I'm a teacher, and so it makes sense to have this PE class at the end of the day. It does make sense. It doesn't make sense for all my walk-on coaches. So how do I support them? Well, they got the coolest Nike backpacks. They got cool gear. They're part of this. I make sure that we make a big deal about them and their sacrifice to do the same thing that I'm doing. And if they don't see me setting up hurdles and cones and moving rakes and sand and doing this and that, and then why would they do it? And so there's another coach at Trabuco. He's the head girls coach, and I'm the sprints, hurdles, jumps, relays coach for the girls, and he's the distance coach, and we get along great. And he's always like, man, we treat our assistant coaches so good. I'm like, yes, we do. And we do that because we lose them, and we want them to stick around, because that longevity, that mentorship, that influence, that only happens with long-term showing up day in and day out. And that's not just something that a coach shows up for 1 year and they're gone. Like, this is life relationships.
Now, to build on the culture and some of the things you're talking about, I went back through your Simplifaster articles, and man, I loved them. You covered a lot of ground in each one, something totally different. They come from all sorts of different directions. So one of them I really liked was it was on goals, setting the most meaningful goals for your athletes possible. How do you go about when you sit down with an athlete and start figuring out what their goals will be?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this, because as much as I wrote the article about goals, but I would also be the first person to tell the kids, okay, burn those goals. Who cares? But I mean, that's not necessarily true, so I think instead of a better word for goals would be expectations. I take the senior studs first. I have a planning day in December. My wife comes in because she's wise and smart, and she sits down. My dad is an assistant coach with me now. He comes in. I have my other assistant coaches come in an hour different, and I'm there all day Saturday. And then I have my kids come in. These stud kids come in, and I have with their name, all the track meets, all the events in a Google spreadsheet. I print it out, and I one by one, it takes me about 10 minutes per kid. I go, this is what I think we should do. And then the kids will say something like, I want to run the 100. I go, okay, let's fit it in. Let's fit it here, here, here. Hey, coach, I really want to run the 4x8. I go, listen, I don't see that on the plan, but I'm sure we can fit it in because there's moments where we can. I go, now this is a plan. This is a sheet with goals on it. We're going to set measurable marks. What do you want to do this year? And I encourage the kids and I affirm them. I don't ever tell them that they can't achieve anything. I mean, they might say dumb stuff. Most of the time, I might even say, like, that's not good enough. You can do so much more than that. Because once kids believe they can do something, my gosh, I can't imagine another sport like track and field where the sheer just belief that you can go catch someone, you actually were going to go do it, regardless of what, your marks are. Like, I've seen kids do stuff in the 4x4 that just blows your mind. It's like, how's that possible? It's like, well, it happened, that's why it's possible. That just comes from belief from me first. And then they start to earn it and own it. And then it becomes their belief. So we start with goals is that I'm not sitting there saying, you're going to run this time in the 100, this time in the 2, this time in the 4. What do you want to like? We basically just talk about expectations. And I have kids that need to stifle their egos. Like, you need to calm down, dude. You haven't earned this yet. You're going to earn it though, but you haven't done it yet. I have kids where I have to like really boost them up and because they're, they have a lot of negative self-talk. So in track and field, I interview coaches on my podcast all the time and they're all saying the same thing. I mean, we're psychiatrists, psychologically, we're sitting kids down on a couch with a pen and pad most of the time. We have to manage personalities. We have to manage kids that have heartache. We have to manage kids that don't believe in themselves. We have to manage kids that just got a girlfriend or just broke up with a girlfriend. We have to manage kids that didn't sleep because of the AP exam. We got kids. It's every day something new. My job is to know those kids. And if I know them, then I know how to push them. I know how to not push them. I know how to encourage them. I know how to get them going. But it takes time. And so a track coach needs to spend that time. Goals are just expectations. And I want every single kid in our program to compete past what they expected and do something that honestly they should not have because their genetic, disposition said they should or shouldn't have. Like, I want every kid going, I can't believe I ran that. I can't believe we did that. I can't believe we accomplished that. And I want to be sitting there just clapping right behind them saying, you're right. And the best thing about being a track and field coach is that these kids get these memories. Well, so do I. I get to hold on to these things, as well as the scars. Oh my gosh. And those are some great memories and great stories of past heartaches, but you get to hold on to those things and there's nothing like it. And so I get to sit around and just be a motivational speaker. I get to be a disciplinarian. I get to be their best friend. And then I also get to be their sensei, so to speak, right?
Now, you kind of touched on it there, but as the person that's wrapped up in all of that, you have to be as invested in their goals or expectations as they are. Otherwise, sometimes there's not the belief there in themselves to reach it. So knowing the athletes well enough to say, hey, we need to adjust this, we need to adjust that takes a lot of work.
It does. Well, you start from the top down. You start with your studs that are going to score all the points of the state finals or, the postseason in some fashion. And then you move on from there. I mean, I'd be remiss, or I probably wouldn't be let me be totally transparent. I don't want to lie, but the freshmen and sophomore kids that are there just to get better. Well, that's their goal. Their goal is to be 1% better every single day. Their goal is to be the best they can be. And I always tell them things like, you're a 4-year project. Every freshman on my team is going to be encouraged by me and my coaching staff. And we're going to say things like, man, in 3 years, you're going to be a force. We're not going to say things like now. And then, you know what? We find moments to give them something to hold on to. Man, I'll send a kid out. He runs like 15 seconds in the 100, and I'll send him out, and I'll send the kid that runs, 10.5 in the 100, and I'll say, catch him. Yeah, but I'm very smart because I know how to. That actually sounded pretty bad. Let me say, I'm very good at this part where I'll send that kid out, and I know how just to send him out just far enough where the other kid can't catch him. So what happens is one kid's running for his life. Another kid is being chased down by the varsity stud of the state. And the varsity stud is trying not to lose to the, very skinny 90-pound, 5-foot freshman. And I gave such a large head start. My varsity stud learns to chase him down, learns how to run, and I'm going to get great quality out of him. But the other kid's running for his life, and he's going to run as fast as he can. And everybody knows if you want to get fast, just run fast. Well, that kid's running fast. And then when he's gone, he passes the finish line and he has not been caught. That kid's the king on campus. And you know what? I make the varsity stud bow down to him, and we put it on Twitter, and we're all laughing about it, and it's great. And the varsity stud was that kid 4 years ago. He knows the games we're playing, and he knows what we're trying to do. And sure enough, that 15-second kid can turn into a 10-8 kid or something like that in 4 years. But I'm going to keep him. He's not going to go and vape under a bridge, the next year. He's going to be with us rather than on some e-bike cruising around town getting in trouble, right?
And that kind of builds into what you're talking about with your seniors, understanding what's going on, helping to coach the next level athlete up. Another one of your articles broke into servant leadership and a survey you took of the athletes and what's most important to the athletes. That was pretty unique. So talking to your athletes, as long as you've coached, the 17 years you've coached, what do you see as the most important things to your athletes?
Oh, I know the study you're talking about. I actually teach a class and we talk about that very thing. So I found an article some kind of article or survey in Texas somewhere at a very small Christian school. And they basically, and I stole it. And they did like 300 kids. I've done tens of thousands because I do it every single year. I was fascinated in what the kids actually wanted from their leaders. And it was actually very different than what I thought they wanted. And the reason I say that is because how foolish of me to sit around and think that these kids know they don't know what they need. I know what they need. Well, in some degree that may be true, but that's actually not that. I mean, I'm removed from this generation, but I have to be. That's my group. That's who I have to study. That's who I have to know. How can I motivate these kids if I don't know them? So the study in question, I gave it to them, and basically, I won't get into all the details. It highlights all these different attributes about a good leader. I mean, altruism, trust, love, affirmation, it goes on. And overwhelmingly, and still to this day, I have a pie chart with tens of thousands of freshman kids that always put their things in, and it actually is more than ever. And maybe COVID has something to do with that. Maybe, I don't know, social media has something to do with that. But it's trust. It's like 30% of every single kid that does this it's trust. They need trust. They want to trust you. You keep your promises. You never overpromise. You never underdeliver. Everything you say, I don't make fun of the kids. I don't goof around with them that, belittles them. I want them to trust me. And I need to be that focal point and pillar of trust. So if I say we're doing a workout, we're doing that workout. If I say I may alter it, but I will tell them while we're altering it, and I will tell them we are going to alter it. And there's going to be always a level of trust, and I never want to violate that. And if the kids they trust me, it's a lot easier to buy in with value, and they see the value in it. And when I speak, they listen. That's what I would want from a mentor or a leader, and that's a big, big deal. And I know I said 30%, but I mean, the next one was love, and then after that was like service and empowerment. But like they're all like 12%. I mean, this 30% was the vast majority. So with that in mind, if you want to be a good coach, garnish and foster trust. And if you can do that, then these kids will do anything. And what an awesome privilege that is to be a coach.
Now, you had mentioned something else in one of your articles, and maybe as I'm getting older.
Man, you did tons of research. You're reading all my articles.
I did read all of your articles. I try to do that with every guest, and it's got to be worth coming on the show. So, you put on your stalker hat and you go find the stuff that's out there. But
man, I feel honored. Thank you.
Well, you had some really good stuff out there, so I don't know who got the most out of it, to be honest. I know I learned a ton.
Stop it, Steve.
But maybe as I'm getting older, this is starting to hit me more, and so I wanted to ask you about it. But discipline equals freedom.
Yeah. That's Jocko Willink, right? The Navy SEAL. Gotta love that dude. You could take that phrase and do a lot with it. I mean, the books are great. If you haven't read any of his books, I mean, he has a podcast too. Mm-hmm. We say the values every single day. My entire track team is in the stands. I have a quick meeting with them about the track meet and this and that, and this would look forward to all the news, right? I have to cast a vision of the workout. I have to do all the good stuff. And I try to keep it short because their attention spans are small. But we end every single practice. How's the weather outside? Every single kid yells, perfect. And why? Because we can't control the weather, but we can control our attitudes, right? And there will come a time where it is cold, it is rainy, it is windy, it is something. Yes, even in Southern California, the weather's not great sometimes. And, but we're already mentally over it, right? That day that there's a monsoon wind, we're yelling it's perfect. And the other team looks like us. We're crazy because we are crazy. So how's the weather outside? We'll say discipline equals freedom. We'll say build your house, which is from Chop Wood, Carry Water. Fantastic book. I actually teach out of it and have the school adopt it. Had the author send us a whole copy of a classroom copy of the book. It's so cool. And I'm actually, and then pound the stone. So there's all these 4 different phrases we yell at the end of every practice. And the reason we do that is because we are reminding ourselves of the values. Discipline equals freedom is a value. So what does that really mean? Well, if you're disciplined, well, then you have the freedom to be great. You have the freedom to have no regrets. You have the freedom to excel beyond your wildest, dreams. My varsity kids, some of those kids will walk over with their app, a sleep cycle app, and go, "Hey, coach, I just want to let you know my sleep rhythms are good." I'm like, great job. And I do the same thing. That's discipline. I'll walk around at lunch. I'm like, why are you guys eating the food cafeteria? Make yourself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's better for you. How much did you hydrate? Did you guys eat before? Did you guys, what's going on? How much did you drink? I mean, what's the water? On and on and on. I mean, think about all the facets that go into being an athlete. Being disciplined. I mean, I have kids that go, "Hey, it's track season, no more soda." And the parents are like, "We can't get our kids to drink soda." I'm like, I didn't tell them to do that. I do have options. Like I have a Google form that I filled out, and it's a contract. If you want to sign it, totally up to you. It's 100% optional. And I would say vast majority of the kids sign it. And now I can hold them accountable to the food they eat. Hey, how are you eating? Are you eating good? Eating healthy? Are you eating things from home? Or are you guys going to Del Taco and Taco Bell all the time? And those things aren't necessarily bad in themselves. I mean, 18-year-olds can pretty much digest anything, but the idea is that they're paying attention because the decisions they make in that moment pay dividends and have consequence, good and or bad, later on. And these are life lessons. So taking care of their homework, taking care of their sleep, that's all discipline. So discipline equals freedom, gives me the opportunity and kind of gives me the agency to even walk up and talk to kids about things that they're doing in their life. And if they're disciplined, then they're going to reap the benefits.
Now, you just talked about Chop Wood, Carry Water. So that book just actually came in the mail today. So it's ironic you mentioned.
Oh, you haven't read it yet?
No, I'm behind.
Oh, you'll finish it in a night. It's an easy read, but it's cool. I mean, it's simple, but it's cool. Like I teach leadership lessons with it too. Like hey, we're going to take a couple chapters. and we're going to walk through it. And this is what it means. And this is, I mean, it's an allegory. It's super simple. And the author did a great job. It's cool for adults, but I'm telling you, man, for kids, for athletes, for high school kids, for college kids, great lessons.
That kind of opens up where I was going to go next. On your website, you list some of your favorite coaching books. What is your favorite coaching book?
Oh my gosh. The best book that you can read as a coach is a book that's extremely famous, and it's not for coaches, and it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I have it on audiobook, and I listen to it while I'm working out once a year. I just throw it on. The lessons in that book teach me how to deal with parents, how to deal with administration, and how to deal with athletes. I mean, it's just every single thing in that book would make you a better coach. I probably should have said like something by John Wooden. Of course, I should have said something by whatever. But that book, it changes everything. And I try to read a lot. I like reading, and I like getting out of my own head. And I have different ways that I read and when I read. But that book. Go if you haven't read it, or you're thinking about reading it, or you have read it and you need to reread it. If you want to be a good coach, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
And that's a very famous book. It's been out for quite a while. I talked to a lot of people that book is the top of their list. Another one that where I work, we use it a lot is 7 Effective Habits of what is it? I just had it and I lost track of it. A highly effective individual. Stephen Covey.
Oh, yeah. That's good too. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I love stuff like that. I mean, all those books where you can just get a couple things out of it. I mean, there's anything you can get out of a book, but anything like I like reading like Culture Code and Talent Code. And I mean, I read a lot of books about the power of mentorship. I mean, if you're a coach, you're a mentor. And so probably should learn about how to ask good questions, how to ask good, engaging questions, how you can make it not about you, but about the person, because that's ultimately what it's about, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I wish I had a list of my top 10 for you, but we'll start with, I think we did pretty good.
I think so. You got like 5 of them or so on your website. They all look like good books. I have some of them I don't have. So it'll be something I'll have to look into in the future.
Cool. There's another book I was just thinking about. The Power of Moments. It's a small little book, but it's really, really good. And that's track and field. The Power of Moments was really good about just basically like creating, like I'm creating a moment that is for this person, and they're going to remember it the rest of their lives. That's track and field. Like, you create this whole thing, this moment where if there's an elevated presence, there is something to be gained. There is something at stake. It's like meaningful, and there's like elation, and it's shared, and other people are there. I mean, like that's Friday Night Lights. That's a Power of Moments, right? That's a track meet. That's the 4x4 meet. Man, I'm going to put those 4 kids. We had a track meet, and every coach has stories like this, and I just love these things. I just geek out on them. But I had, it's against the arch rival. Comes down to the 4x4 because God loves track and field, and that's how it should happen. And whoever wins the 4x4 wins the whole track meet. And I walk out with black uniforms. We don't have black uniforms. Our school colors are navy and silver, or navy, gray, and white. So I come out black uniforms. Like, I just got them custom made with arm sleeves, because arm sleeves are amazing. There's no reason besides how cool they look. And I pull them out of my backpack and I give them to the 4 kids. Every kid ran a second and a half faster than they should have. And you know what? They were freaking out. The other team looked over and saw them in these new uniforms. They're like, those are drip. Those are cool. And like, I mean, we already won. Though, man, those kids ran so good. And it was only because of that moment. And so Power of Moments talks about all these different things. And it has nothing to do with sports, really. It just is a good book for coaches, especially track coaches.
That's the whole thing. If, a kid feels good about what's getting ready to happen, it's going to be better than if they're down. Oh, yeah. The mental side of it all is such a big factor. And like you said, you're always working with that and always judging that.
No, it's everything. I mean, football coaches do it all the time. It's fourth quarter. It's the last drive. They're creating a moment for these kids and these athletes. I keep saying kids, these athletes to step into, right? Like, what would you do if you were in this moment? Well, let's prepare for it, right? So we do the same thing. We create moments. And as a track coach, I do it all the time too. I know who my anchor is, so I'm going to teach them to be an anchor all year long. I know who my starter is in that relay. I'm going to teach them to be starter all year long. And then my coaching at the track meet, I'm going to sit them down and say things like, this kid's going to get out ahead. Don't freak out. You run your race. And then the kid that's the second, like, hey, they're going to be a little far. They're going to be ahead because I know who their first two runners are. Don't freak out. You're going to catch them at this moment. So we're creating these moments that the athletes step into and they know what they need to do. And if you can do that as a coach, I mean, you sit in the stands and just watch. I mean, I freak out and probably have 6 heart attacks because I care, you know. I also say that to the athletes all the time. Kids come on, coach, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. I mean, girls are like crying, right? I don't want to run the 400. I'm so nervous. What if I don't do well? What if I don't make it? And it's literally like, you know why you feel this way? You know why you're crying? Why? It's because you care. Oh, yeah, it's you care. And because you care, it's worth it. Go out there and just do your job. You've done it 1,000 times before. This isn't the first time you've been in this moment. And I love when athletes finish and they come over and they go, Coach, I personal best, I PB, PR, I did it. It's like, I know. And I'm jumping up and down with them. Man, I've been in some, I might have been the instigator in some dog piles at the finish line. Like, that's just me. I don't care. You know, we had a kid break the school record on the pole vault. Man, he was like holding his hands up on the pit. Man, I tackled him and everyone was laughing and that kid thought it was so funny. And I'm in it with them. And I'm going to be the coach that jumps up and down. I'm not, as you can tell from, you know, just 30 minutes on this podcast, I got a lot of energy and I want to use it and I want to use it positively. And I don't want to sit around and just be stoic and boring, right? That's just not me. I'm in it with them and they never have to feel alone in that moment either.
Well, we've kind of talked about some of the other stuff, but some articles you wrote that really caught my attention was mass specific force. I'm a big Louis Simmons guy. He talks about that quite a bit in his speed tapes. He goes at it a little bit different than you on the dynamic work, but the max effort work is right down the line with you. What landed you on this way?
Everything I do, and I'm saying everything I do, and I touched on it earlier, is I'm not smart enough to know the biomechanics of this and that and the physics of this and that. And I did not go to the Olympics, and I can't rely on, you know, what I was able to do from great coaching. So I need to go research a ton. I need to go take people out for beers and coffees and burgers, and I'm just going to call people up and just have conversations, make them like me, and hopefully they'll give me some like cool tidbits and that I can learn from. Well, after 17 years, I've developed a system from all these different people. And I'm still doing it. I mean, I have a podcast where I literally am getting paid just to have conversations with people so I can learn from them. And I've developed some amazing relationships with some incredible coaches. And they've learned the same way. And so we're all benefiting from one another. And I mention that because mass specific force was a way to lift that made sense. And I tested it and I tested it and I tested it. And it came out as, if you do the right thing in the right way, you can reap the benefits. And so lifting, you can get faster in the weight room. And it's not going in there and just doing it like CrossFit. It's not going in there and just squatting like you're a football player. And a lot of people are really stuck in their ways. I'm just not that way. You have to prove it to me and I have to be able to test it before I start believing in it. And I think that idea, the attitude towards the craft of coaching, especially track and field and sprints, has really benefited me. But also like it makes me move slower on things. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I can give you a list of things that I do now that kids come back like 8 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, and they go, Coach, we never did that. Oh, no, we didn't. Like, we added it. We added it to the system, you know. Mass specific force, in a nutshell, is you lift. It's dead. We primarily do deadlift. Hex bar, deadlift bar. We lift heavy weight, short amount of reps, short amount of sets. You add a plyo in it, and then you rest for 5 minutes to replenish the ADP system so you can lift heavy again. You skip the hypertrophy. You skip the downward movement. So we actually drop the weight. We go up with the weight, we drop it, we reset ourselves, we do it again. We never lift anything less than 85% of our max. And we have ways to figure out our max as well. And we do the plyo right after, whatever plyo it is. It kind of tricks the system. And then we rest 5 minutes. That's what we do. Allison Felix was kind of what got my mind on it. Someone handed me Barry Ross's book, Underground Secrets to Faster Running, which kind of details all of it. And then I've kind of, I think I would say tailored it to make sense for my demographic and to my team. But Steve, I got kids running crazy fast times that have no business running crazy fast times. I had a girl last year. I've known her as a family friend for a long time. We let her on the team her freshman year. She didn't make the tryouts. And we basically let her on the team as a team manager / like, we'll let you run the 100. And she ran 12 flat her senior year and broke the school record. And she could have gone a little faster too. She literally got a D1 scholarship in 2 months. My dad said it best. He's like, her whole life changed in 2 months, and she only lifted for a year. And she was deadlifting a ton too. And she was like 104 pounds. Like, she was just a little thing. And what a monster in the weight room she became. If you are not, this is going to sound controversial, but I'm sure you love this because Voodoo Power Podcasting can broadcast this. If you're not lifting in this way, your kids are not as fast as they could be. Christian McCaffrey is on my 49ers. His coach, Brian Kula, they did this, and Brian Kula and I are best friends. We talk to each other constantly, literally weekly. You can't find someone that's more aligned on a different part of the country than you in the way that you think about training. And he does it, so and then now my athletes do it. And I have boys and girls that are skinny, that never did sports in their lives, and they're running and they're literally beating D1 talent that have more stars on their resume to go, and they're getting these NIL deals. And my kids don't have any of those, and we'll still beat them. And I take a lot of pride in that. And they do too, because they work their butts off. So we deadlift 2 to 3 times a week right now. And we do other stuff in there too. I don't do a lot of Olympic lifts. I can't do much. I don't have a lot of room. But with the hex bar, deadlift bar, I can go up with weight and I can drop it. And I have video series out there. I have articles out there for all the benefits. But just for the podcast sake, because you're probably listening to this rather than watching it, you should figure out a way to do mass specific force, because it is incredible. Tony Holler called it "feed the cats in the weight room," which I took a lot of, because he hates the weight room. So I love that the fact that he kind of, me and Kula, probably more Kula than me, but me and Kula kind of made him a disciple of the weight room in that fact. So kind of cool, because that guy's a kind of a go-getter when it comes to speed training.
Now, like you touched on there, way back when I was trying to figure all this out and what I wanted to do and invested in speed tapes, Louis was the first one I bought, and he touched on everything you just touched on. You avoid the eccentrics because it puts on size and it creates stiffness and soreness. I know not everybody will agree with that, and that's fine. That's just what Louis said. And he lifted heavy. Now, he kept a dynamic day in there that kept everything fast, sub-maximal weights, very few reps, long rest periods, but you could do however you want to do that. So when I was reading this article, it was very easy to tie back to things that I had already kind of was aware of. Now, the one thing I thought was unique, and you don't hear a lot of coaches say this, is you guys straight deadlift. Deadlift bar, not always a trap bar deadlift, but deadlift.
Not anymore. I'm a hex bar deadlift bar all the time. And and maybe when I wrote that article, we were doing both. The reason why is because it's so much easier to maintain form. It's easier to teach form. It's easier to drop weight, and we can lift more. You can lift a lot more weight when it's kind of distributed in that fashion. My 8th grade son, he's lifting and he's deadlifting, and he learned it like that. Just picked it up. Straight bar is a lot harder. I mean, form with that, it gets a lot more complicated. My poor sweet children would get hurt. Not just my own kids, my athletes too. They would just get hurt. So we try to mitigate that. The hex bar is awesome. I mean, it's my favorite thing. I got 3 in my garage right now. And the kids drop weight in my garage. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we do deadlift here. And I found that teaching them off a box really helped because, like you said, every kid that comes in, some really get it. Some get it right now, and you don't have to help them. But others, it's a two-part movement, and it takes a lot to get that corrected. So, yeah, I can understand with as many athletes as you work with, the trap bar is just the way to go.
Well, and I also have kids at times when dropping weight's a lot easier for them, and it doesn't psych them out. And you know what? To be honest, there's moments where coaches, I can't get it out. I can't get it. I'm like, I walk over and I just put my hand on the bar, and the kids are going up with the bar. Like, it's a lot easier to spot them. I can just kind of give them a little kind of, probably shouldn't as much as but who cares? Like, I want them to lift weight, and I'll go over there and just put my hand on the bar, give them a little push, and they can just go right up. So yeah, mass specific force is a game changer. That article that I wrote kind of changed my life, actually, because I wrote that article. I was just a whatever coach, didn't have a community, and slowly quickly got invested with the TFC community, Tony Holler and Chris Corfus, Brian Kula, which led me to Bobby Stroop, who's Patrick Mahomes' coach. And then now I'm speaking in clinics about it. And it didn't change what we did. It just became a lot bigger, and we're making video series. It was really kind of fun to sit down and write an article and see what happens. And so you need to put yourself out there. I am not afraid to make mistakes. I mean, I will fail constantly, and that's good. I'll put myself out there and I'll make a mistake and I'll learn from it, and then I'll move on, and I'm not afraid to take risks. Mass specific force and things like RPR and things like bounce fire series with the warm up and even the handoffs that I do. These are all rebel talent, as Tony Holler called me, and he called me that like 6 years ago, and I'm still flying high on that compliment. Think outside the box, because maybe the box isn't right. Not with everything. And there's a lot of things that are pretty true, but not everything. And so the world is going to be changed by risk takers and people that think outside the box. My track and field team, I just care about those athletes that come through, and I care that anybody that I have an opportunity to influence or inspire or give an opportunity to see the value in what they do. I'm in 100%. I don't care what school you go to or where you coach.
Now, you were talking about RPR there. You're RPR 3. Where does that start leading into? I went through RPR 2, so I have a really good grasp on that, but I haven't been into RPR 3. So what do you start looking at that level?
You start thinking you're stupid. That's for sure. You start thinking you don't know what. Man, Chris Corpus, his video series is very, very good on level 3. I just don't know how to implement it right now. Like, I'm still watching it and taking notes and trying to figure out. The best thing to do is try to get to one of those TFCs. I'm speaking at one in California in February, and so I'm definitely going to be like, "Hey, Chris, so what now? What do I do?" I would say that I use level 1 and level 2 every day. Level 1 for sure every day. Almost every athlete at my high school does RPR, and I lead them through it. I do RPR, lead them through the whole zone 1, zone 2, level 1 stuff. I do it 4 times a day with everybody. And you know what's cool? I do it with myself because I demonstrate, and like, I'm feeling good. My knees don't hurt that much anymore, and I can demonstrate, and it sure helps with the upper body when I'm lifting too. Anyways, with all said, the one thing I've learned about RPR level 3 is I have no idea what's going on. So I'm not sure if that helps you, but it is cool. The video is cool. It's expensive, but it's really cool. I just haven't dived in as much as I should.
I know RPR level 2 starts really getting into some detailed stuff, so I can only imagine how far it goes when you start looking at the 3.
It does. Three kind of puts it all together. I've seen a lot of benefit out of two. I haven't seen the benefit of three yet, but sometimes you got to chew on something for a while before you can start figuring out how to implement it, you know? And so I'm in no rush.
What counts that we aren't counting as coaches, mentors, teachers, people working with youth athletes? What's a big factor that we aren't paying enough attention to that we should be?
Encouragement. There is a lack of encouragement, and I think people would disagree with me, but I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think we encourage enough. And I'm not saying some phony, trumped up, you're just encouraging for nothing. I'm like, no, it's earned. But athletes, these kids, adults even, I mean, I think marriages could benefit from this. I think parent relationships can benefit from this. I don't think we encourage enough. That's
probably pretty accurate. And you start getting into a whole other thing. I was able to talk to Bill Priesty the other day, and he brought up a self-esteem epidemic in our youth.
Oh, for sure.
And some of that will go back to what the encouragement piece could help with.
I can't agree more, because people just need to know they matter, and you can encourage them. And it doesn't matter if they run 52 seconds in the quarter or they run 47 seconds in the quarter. I mean, these kids matter. Or 59 seconds in the quarter. Who cares? These kids matter, and these parents matter, and my wife matters, and my own 4 children, they matter, and the church that I get to serve at, that they matter. It's like people matter, and people don't feel that. People feel alone. People feel isolated, and you know what? It's probably always been that way, but it's probably even getting worse. I don't want to say now is worse than ever, because I don't, I'm sure the bubonic plague was pretty tough, and I'm sure World War II was pretty tough, and I'm sure, sitting in the jungles in Nam was pretty tough. So anyways, I think encouragement can go a long, long way, and I have to remind myself that every day. It's not my go-to, I don't go to that right away. And so I'm surrounded by people that my coaching staff, that I need to remind, and I give them complete authority to tell me that I need to be the same way. One of my coaches encouraged me the other day, and it meant a lot. And so I just remembered I got to encourage her a lot, and I got to encourage that coach a lot. And the more encouragement that goes around, the more it's earned encouragement, the more value people feel, and amazing things can happen.
Small investments for huge returns. What small things, other than encouragement, can you invest in your athlete to see them totally change their perception of the world?
How about you just walk up to them during a warm-up and tell them, "Hey, how you doing?" "I'm okay, coach." "What's going on?" I walked up to a kid the other day. I walked up to him, and he was a freshman, and he's a huge kid. And I was like, "You have potential. This is in the middle of a huge warm up. I was like, you have potential. You could start varsity if you wanted to next year, but I don't think you want it enough." I go, "Prove me wrong. Let me see your effort. Let me see what you can do. But you know what? I actually believe in you. But do you believe in you?" And it's something as stupid and simple, as quick as that. That kid's warm up was different from that moment on. And I think he went home and put his head on his pillow at the end of the night and just thought of himself differently. So what small investments, just go make them. I am tired. Track season makes me tired. I am on fumes all the time. And some of the athletes will start saying things like, "Coach, you okay?" And that means a lot to me. Don't be embarrassed to say I love you. I think most coaches love their athletes. And you know what? I don't think you should be ashamed to say, hey guys, come here. I love you. And you know what? And I mean it. And then I'm going to prove it to you by being trustworthy, by giving you my very best. And I want you to see it. I'm not going to tell you about it. I want you to see it. Love is an action. Why not? What do we have to lose by being like this? It makes the job a whole lot more meaningful. I'll tell you that.
So going into that, what should coaches stop doing? What's not effective, or what's dragging their athletes down?
Punishment. Discipline is not the same as punishment. If I saw a coach tell a kid that he needs to lay on the ground and roll for 100 yards until he gets vertigo and throws up because he couldn't turn in a math paper, I would say you're a bad coach. And I tell you to your face. And I would say you're probably doing child abuse too. I have no patience for any sort of thing like that. I think coaches just need to know what the difference is between discipline, which is love. Discipline is love. Because if you're teaching them about good consequences and bad, and you're protecting them, that's discipline. They know that there's very clear expectations from you. And if they weren't clear expectations, then you own that. And then you apologize as a coach. But yeah, no punishment there's no place for punishment. Discipline is another thing. Like, and I am all for discipline. Like, and my athletes would definitely tell you that, yeah, Coach Ayers would give out discipline, but they know exactly. You show up late, doesn't matter who you are, Coach Ayers is going to ask you to go home. Hey, you showed up late. Yeah, Coach, I'm so sorry. I had this and that and the other or whatever. And like, okay, I need you to go home. And tomorrow, please show up on time. And if you don't show up on time, you're going to go home again. And you will not have the workout. You will not be with your friends. You will not be in your culture, and you will miss out. Man, that kid, they'll go home one time. They will sit there for the 2 hours while we're at practice, and they'll never be late again. And the entire team will never be late again. They all just saw that, I didn't have to get mad. I didn't have to punish him. I didn't have to make an example out of him. I just told them that they needed to go home. Something as silly as making sure that the borders and parameters of the program, of your track and field program, it's the same thing I do in my house too. I mean, my own children know where the line is. And if they don't know where the line is, my fault. So I think as I'm talking, I've noticed that, especially my freshmen that I teach, and I teach a lot of them, ownership, kind of just owning it, like whatever it is, like, hey, were you playing a video game on your computer a second ago? No. I think I need you to own this, because if you don't, there's going to be a pretty severe consequence. You're right, Mr. Ayers. I was playing a video game. All right, listen, you can't do that. Please close your computer, put it off to the side. You're going to use a pen and paper today. You won't be using a Google Doc or whatever. Okay. Like, that's discipline. Punishment is, I don't need to send the kid to detention. Just need to have a quick talk with them. So I don't know, man. I think after an hour and it's late and I just had a Guinness, I'm thinking I'm going to get a little sappy.
Well, I mean, sometimes that'll happen, but I appreciate the honest answers. I'm sure other coaches listening do too. I mean, that's why I hope people listen, as the guests that come on here are honest.
Well, I appreciate you, because we're all products of one another. Like, we're all products of wanting to have conversations with people and figure out how they do it and how I can do it. And then if we're not sharing, then none of us are growing. And I am a 100% a product of every single other person that took interest and investment in me. I mean, I'll just shout them out. Guys like Brian Fitzgerald, Brian Weaver, Brian Kula, Tony Holler, and the list goes on. These people were just transformative into me. And I mean, I had a life coach, a guy named Dave Kraft. Search davecraft.org. He is in his 80s, and he's the most manliest man, wisdom-driven guy. And he has a newsletter that goes out. He's written books, and that guy just said, hey, I'm going to invest in you. We'll have a call every other week, and I want to figure out how to help you. If we're not doing that for one another, then what's the point? If you're holding on to all your stuff as secrets, you're a lonely, terrible coach, and you're a flash in the pan, and you'll be good for a year, and then you know what? Who cares? And there's a lot of coaches that are great for like 3 years, and they write articles about them, and they're this and that, then they disappear. And I'm here to coach my athletes, kids and grandkids one day. Like, I'm going to die at a ripe old age of 90 in lane 5 on that track. That's my plan.
Now, in saying that, is that why you started the podcast that you do?
No, I started the podcast because someone said they're going to pay me to do the podcast. I had no aspirations to do the podcast. So On Track and Field, a company kind of in this, like, outside of LA, in the northern part of LA, which is still like a 2-hour drive to me. We just knew each other, and he called me. Steve Rangold is the CEO. He goes, I just bought this company and I want a podcast where we can kind of promote, but like, you already talked to these people. Would you just put them on a podcast? Well, then it turned into us like talking to Olympians and the fastest people who's ever lived and the greatest coaches who've ever lived. And man, we just finished 100 episodes, And it's mind blowing, and it's been incredible. And so I find the guest, I do the research, I do the podcast, and then I send it to Steve. Steve's a radio guy, so Steve produces it, puts his voice at the beginning and the end because he's got a sweet radio voice, and we put it out there, and it's turned into something pretty special. And so if it goes away tomorrow, my life doesn't change, and Steve knows that too. But it's something that we get to do together, and it's good for the community. I mean, I'll tell you this, my track and field athletes listen to it, and they know the names. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, if you're a track and field coach, just go walk up to any random athlete on your team and say, who's your favorite sprinter? Who's your favorite hurler? Who's your favorite javelin thrower? They probably don't know their names. That's different at my school because I ask them constantly, and they get to listen to these people. They get to meet these people, and they get to, follow them. And then my final in my track and field team, the final for our class is, I want a 5-page paragraph essay on your favorite fill in the blank athlete. It has to be professional. Can't be a collegiate kid. And so they go out and they tell you things like, my favorite sprinter is Kung Fu Kenny, or Arian Knighton, or Noah Lyles, or Michael Norman, or Rye Benjamin, or Jenna Prandini, or on and on and on. And it's just the coolest thing in the world because they're fans of the sport they love. And most track and field athletes aren't fans of the sport. They just do it. But they definitely can tell you who their favorite running back is, or their favorite tight end is, or whatever, right? So, I mean, that's one of the added benefits of having that podcast.
Yeah, it's amazing. I never saw the guests that I have had on this ever want to come on here. So you get to talking to people like you get to talk to, your knowledge just gets brought up because they're willing to pour into your episode.
Yeah, it's been really cool. Just fun conversations. And, it's all about relationships. I'm being able to develop relationships with people. I got to hang out with Noah Lyles like multiple times on podcast and in person. But that, why is this my life? Like, how did that even happen? Like, I am constantly honored and privileged, and I try to be cool, but I'm just geeking out as a track and field nerd on, with a microphone in front of my face on a Zoom call with the third fastest, second fastest, first, fastest person who's ever lived in this event. Like, it's gonna be fun to see where it goes after this.
Now, we've talked about a lot of different things. Your articles are on Simplifaster, so I didn't delve way deep into them. I tried to talk about some stuff that maybe you don't normally get to talk about. But to kind of wrap this thing up, practicing courage every day and getting your athletes to actually buy into that. How do you get them to put themselves out there?
Wow. You find out if they want it, and the way you do that is you make them earn, first and foremost, a spot on that team. They'll take a lot of value in what they're trying to achieve if they understand that they've earned it. So I start with and you don't have to make it hard, but have a tryout. Track and field should not be anybody makes it. Why? It takes one bad apple or one bad seed, or, take a biblical analogy. It takes like, a small grain or piece of yeast to ruin the whole bread or whatever, right? A kid that doesn't want to be there, why would you fight them? And so I find out who wants to be on the team. I have tryouts, they try, and once they're on the team, we have an entire group moving in one direction, and I'm super happy about that.
Well, Coach, I know the football game's going on. I know how busy you are. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time and talking about culture, track and field, lifting weights. Thank you very much.
Well, I really hope this is meaningful to someone, and I really mean it. We're all products of one another. If you DM me on Twitter, I'm just Coach JT Ayers. If you find me on, a podcast or whatever, reach out. Let's talk on the phone. Let's figure out ways, because I'm going to learn from you as much as you're going to learn from me. And guess who benefits? The athletes have been given, we've been given care to, we're in charge of. And so, I'm on Twitter. I love Twitter because Twitter gives me an opportunity to learn and grow. I'm not sitting there watching stupid, videos, passing the time. So, I love what I do, And I really feel like it's a gift from God. And I wouldn't be doing this. Honestly, I have a job that I make a lot more money if it didn't, if I didn't really feel like this was a calling. Coaches are the most important people in young athletes' lives, and it doesn't change. So get up in the morning, and if you're tired, good. You should be tired. You earned that. You did what you were supposed to do, and who benefited? Those athletes. And it's a high honor to be a coach.
Well, Coach, listening to everything you had to say was incredible. Reading all of your stuff, looking at your website, you've really put a lot of time in learning how to coach young athletes, and I know there's probably a ton of kids out there and parents that are really appreciative.
Oh, I really appreciate the encouragement, my guy. Yeah, and you reached out to me, so this is fun. My podcasts are typically 18 to 20 minutes. So being on a podcast for an hour and 12 minutes, there's a lot. I mean, I usually don't get to talk this much, and I probably talked too much, but I enjoyed it, man. Thank you so much for all you do.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know how much I actually do, other than ask some questions to great guests. I mean, so just scheduling. That's the hardest part of my job.
Yeah. Well, let's go. Voodoo power. Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, man.